We're basically in the final stretch of the NBA season, which means the playoffs are just around the corner. The playoffs are in about 2 months, which means NBA basketball is really starting to spice up, which means there will be more unexpected runs near the end of the season and in the playoffs. It's always so fun to watch because it's always a team you don't expect at all. Kind of like the Houston Rockets last year, or the Heat 2 years in a row, making very deep playoff runs. These are some of my most favorite NBA memories. And today I want to go over who I think can make these runs this season. Either it's a late season push or it's a playoff run. We never know. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and listen to this. At my number 5 spot, I got the Warriors. I recently just acquired Jimmy Butler. I was a little hesitant to put them a bit higher because of the amount of players they gave up to get Jimmy Butler. Because the Warriors lost a ton in this trade. Because they gave away Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and more. And first-round picks just to get an aging star. Because Wiggins is kind of the same player as Jimmy Butler. I believe Jimmy Butler is better, but they're both kind of 3-and-D wing guys. Of course, both of them can be so much more versatile, but that's like their main prototype. And plus, Jimmy's regressing. He's definitely not the same player we saw a few years ago, or even with the Bulls. But besides saying all of that, I feel like they can still make a pretty deep playoff push. Because they're basically in do or die mode. Because both of their best players are over the age of 35. Curry and Butler are about to retire too. Same with Draymond. So what are they going to do after? So I feel like they're a bit desperate for a title right now. Because they only have like 1 or 2 years left. And they're currently the 9th seed right now. But despite all of that, we know how Butler and Curry are in the playoffs. But I have little faith in this team. Because they're currently the 9th seed. And they just have no depth. Without Butler, Curry, and Draymond, they're generationally bad. These players are not what they used to. They cannot play entire games anymore because they're old men, basically. So it's going to be really hard if one of them gets injured because all of them are pretty injury prone. But if everything goes right, I feel like they can make a push to the Western Conference Finals. Now, that's an insane hot take, but, with Butler, Curry, and Green, I guess anything can happen. Now, I got the Atlanta Hawks. They have a good deal of playoff experience, or at least some of their players do, and they have a lot more depth than the Warriors. And I'm not even saying all of these teams on the list are going to make a playoff push. I'm just saying that they might, because they have a lot of talent. And I feel like their team is way better off than the Warriors. I feel like if Jalen Johnson really develops into more of a co-star to Trae Young, they could actually be pretty good. I feel like they're just a few missing pieces away from being a pretty good team in the East. And I know there's trade talk about Trae Young, but I could see the route where they keep him and then they actually get some surrounding players and they become good. Next, I got the Phoenix Suns. This team has kind of sucked this year, and I think that's due to the fact that they don't really have much depth. Kind of the same thing as the Warriors. Alright, as I'm editing this, the Warriors have taken the 7th seed, but when I started recording this, they were like the 10th seed, so I guess I was right. The Suns might have Booker, Durant, Beal, but that's really it in terms of like championship level players. They have other great players like Grayson Allen, but he's not like the supporting cast you want if you're trying to get a championship. And with all that being said, I still think they can kind of make a push similar to the Warriors. They have 2 great players that can put the team on their back. And I think that's really what they need to do if they want to get any return out of the Kevin Durant trade. They're currently the 11th seed right now, and I feel like they could slip into the 10th seed spot and take the 8th seed once they're done with the play-in. And right now they're set to play the Thunder first round. And if they get that, they can take advantage of the Thunder's lack of playoff experience. You have KD, who's gotten to multiple finals, granted, with Steph Curry, and Devin Booker, who's gotten to an NBA Finals. So they might be able to get around on the Thunder, but I don't see them going further. They either have to play the Lakers or the Rockets. And I feel like that's very possible to win the second round if they get the Rockets. Because the Rockets also have a lack of playoff experience, but it's most likely going to be the Lakers, and they're for sure not going to make it past the Western Conference Finals. Now at my number 2 spot, I got the Kings. They're currently the 10th seed right now, and I feel like they're pretty good. They probably have the most depth out of anyone I put on this list so far, and I like that out of them. My only concern is that they don't have Fox anymore, but they still have Sabonis. And I don't think they'd win this series, but I feel like they can make it pretty competitive. They've got tons of depth, but the Thunder are just too good. This team I don't want to put really high up, but I still decided to put them at number 2 because I feel like they have a pretty good chance. They pushed the 2023 Warriors to a Game 7, and the only reason they lost that was because Curry had 50. So it was a pretty big feat to push the former champs to a Game 7 and the future Western Conference Finals losers, but they still made it to the conference finals. But then again, without Fox, I don't see them making it past the first round. And at number 1, this shouldn't really be that surprising. I got the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're a great defensive team that made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, losing to Luka and the Mavs. They got a top 20 player in the league as an Ant, and also everyone else is pretty good. And of course the GOAT Naz Reid is on that team, so anything could happen. I'm honestly surprised this team is an 8 seed right now, but with a stacked Western Conference, it's not really surprising. This team could make a late season push to get past the play-in, but I'm just going to pretend like they're going to stay in the play-in. I think they could have a pretty decent chance of beating the Warriors. The Warriors might have advantage of vets, but the Timberwolves are just a better team. If they win this matchup, they're set to play the Grizzlies. Now, if they lose their game against the Warriors and then win in the second round of the play-in, then they're set to play the Thunder. Now, starting with the Grizzlies, I think this is a pretty fair matchup. Both teams are pretty good, but I'd give it to the Timberwolves. Because the Timberwolves are ranked 6th in defense, and the Grizzlies are 25th. And we all probably know the phrase, defense wins championships. Now, if they play the Thunder, just like I said with the Suns, they could take advantage of them being a really young team. The Thunder are better at defense and offense than the Timberwolves, so the Timberwolves don't really have much places to go. So just be annoying and annoy the young players on the Thunder, which can lead to silly mistakes and a potential win for the Wolves. Now in the second round, they can either play the Lakers or the Rockets. They're most likely going to play the Lakers though, so that's who I want to focus on. Now the Lakers lack a good defense and a good big man. They could take advantage of how Luka isn't really a great defender and take advantage on how the Lakers are kind of just smaller than them. And on defense, if the Lakers ever try to drive to the hoop, they have a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year waiting for them. But LeBron and Luka are on that team, so you never know. Now the Rockets, like I said with the Thunder, they could just take advantage of them being a really young team. And that's how they're going to win that series. Now in the Western Conference Finals, they're probably either going to play the Denver Nuggets or the Memphis Grizzlies. I already went over how they could beat the Grizzlies, but now it's time to go over the Nuggets. Let's be real, if it's the Nuggets, they're probably not going to beat the Nuggets. But they have a great defensive team, and they could just attack the Nuggets on offense. But they actually won against the Nuggets the last playoff series they played in 2024. And their players have improved, so I feel like they just do what they did against the Nuggets last time, and they can maybe pull off another victory. Now, for the finals, they're either going to play probably the Cavs or the Celtics. And I think this is where the run stops here. Both teams are just objectively better, but, you never know. The Cavs are just a really good team, and Jason Tatum and the Celtics already have NBA Finals experience. So this is probably where the Wolves' hypothetical run ends. And that's all the teams I got for today. Now, if you watched to the end and enjoyed, maybe press the like button and maybe subscribe. I'm not forcing you. And goodbye.